Heads up, Double Fine fans. Editor Matt Storm is here to tell you that Alex and Blake flew to San Francisco to interview current and former members of Double Fine and Two Player Productions to look back at 10 years of Broken Age, the legendary Double Fine adventure documentary series, the complicated nature of game development, transparency, and crowdfunding. Watch the 40-minute cinematic roundtable at youtube.com/GameInformer. It's excellent. I actually just watched it. And now, on to the show.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Game Informer Show, a weekly podcast covering the video game industry. Join us every Thursday for discussion of the latest gaming news, reviews, and exclusive reveals alongside Game Informer staff and special guests from around the industry. I'm your host, Alex Van Aken, and today I'm joined by Marcus Stewart. How you doing, Marcus?
I'm feeling rested.
Yeah. You had your staycation, right? Did you go anywhere, or was it just you're just chilling at home?
For the most part, just chilled at home. I went to MegaCon here in Orlando. I spent the other weekend with my parents down south, but by and large, just sort of took it easy, chilled out, just decompressed. You got to do that every now and then. That's what I've been told.
Yes, I've been told that too. I always find that I'm a messed up individual, and when I try to take breaks or take days off, I'm stressed because I'm like, well, if I was working, I could just, I'm going to be stressed when I'm done with my relaxation time. And so it hinders me from relaxing in the moment. I'm working on it.
I do that. And I also do the thing where I stress that I'm not vacationing good enough, of like, could I be doing something else? I'm very bad at not doing anything, honestly. So it takes a few days for me to sort of like give myself permission to be unproductive.
You kind of like, this is what I'm doing with my free time? All right, me, I guess.
Is this me living my life to the fullest right now?
Yeah, it gets really existential real quick.
No, that's great. Well, I'm happy that you're rested and you're back. Kyle Hilliard, how you doing, Kyle?
Doing all right. The opposite of rested, whatever, tired.
Me too. I was a bad person and I worked the weekend.
Oh, how dare you?
Yeah, I'm going to take some days off at the end of the week to make up for it. But I'm back. Last week, I was recording from the East Coast. I'm now back in the middle of America. Happy to be home with my cats. They're both next to me on our little day bed in the office, both sleeping together. It's very cute. I feel like I'm at home. So I'm happy to be recording today. And even more happy because we're joined by a special guest, Sarah Thwaites, who you might know if you are a Game Informer reader. Sarah wrote in the last issue a piece called Say Good Day, The Rise of the Australian Indie Game. I met Sarah at Gamescom last year, and we instantly hit it off. We went to like a bar with a dancing mannequin or dancing puppet. It was weird.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah, I think we played. I think I put in coins and it played Amazing Grace, and the robots like it was animatronically danced to Amazing Grace.
I was like, how do you dance to Amazing Grace? That's not really a dancing song.
I didn't see a lot of songs I recognized, and I was like feeling like I need to make a decision.
It was one of the funnier things that I've ever seen happen. It's like a bar full of German people and then just Amazing Grace on this animatronic playing throughout the whole thing. It's
still
beautiful.
like a trap remix of Amazing Grace.
Yeah, that'd be funny if that was like my favorite song. And just anytime I went to karaoke or something, like, oh great, Amazing Grace is on again.
Everyone pulls out their Bibles, like, I guess we're in church now.
Yeah. But Sarah, welcome to the show. Thanks for taking time out of your evening to come and chat with us.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's awful weather in the UK, so naturally any excuse to do anything else is always the plan. So thank you for having me.
Isn't that just standard weather in the UK?
Yeah, I went home to Australia for 7 weeks with my partner for Christmas, and I was just like, what? Why did I leave? hang on, wait a minute. And I came back, and literally we'd left, and it was a family holiday, so we'd hung out and we'd been to the pool, and it was amazing. And then we landed, and it was snowing, and I was wearing like shorts, and I was like, "You are not smart, and you are home."
Been there, yeah. Well, thank you again for joining us. You're gonna be you're reviewing Minecraft Legends for Game Informer, so we're gonna talk about that later in the show. That's also why this episode went up on a Friday instead of a Thursday like normal, just because of embargo reasons. But we're going to get into that. I want to know, Sarah, we met at Gamescom. We hit it off. I knew that you were like talking to a lot of the Australian game devs because you told me in person that you had met a lot of them at Gamescom. And that kind of seems like it fueled this piece and kind of was the kickoff for this feature in the magazine. What was it like writing this feature and coming up with the idea and all of that?
I think when I went to Gamescom, it was like very much, I was there sort of more as a photographer even, so I wasn't there like writing at all at that point. And I
remember that.
Yeah, I was like completely not. I was like, oh, like I would love to do that, but I'm not sure. And then I went and I saw all the Australian devs, and it was like, I was so like passionate. I don't know what it was. It was like I had spent so long away from family and like away from home, and with COVID, I wasn't traveling, and I hadn't seen. So this was my first time away, and like the second I heard an Australian accent, I was like, cold, I'm going. And then someone had like a little like shirt that said like spinning yarns, and I was like, oh my god. And so it was just this like rush of like, I was homesick, and like everyone there, and they were just saying like slang that I knew from like school and home. And I think all of that like bubbled into this thing where I was like, I need to talk to more people, because everyone there was so passionate, and like there's like a sense of like grateful to be there. And I think like all the devs were, but I think there's just something so exciting to me about like reconnecting with home. And I thought like for people abroad, like there's so many Australians in the UK everywhere, like we love to be everywhere. And so, but the thing that you miss, like you're always homesick for that, like, I don't know, that the humor or like the jokiness is like, it just feels to me like really personal. And so when all of that came to a head and I was like, oh my God, I have to talk to more. It kind of came to this idea where I was like, I want to talk about how interesting it is and how challenging it is and how different it is, because of how long this like game dev journey has been for so many of them. Like some of them had been in like Sega studios way back when, like working in like these like more corporate jobs in Australia. And then lots of that got pulled and lots of funding got pulled and things like that. And then so many more are just like people that just like love games and just were like writing in their rooms and like, you know, sacrificing like personal choices and moves to build it. And I just thought it was so impressive, and you know, it felt personal to me because I got to talk to people about like things that felt like home, which I think is just always cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I recommend everybody going to it was part of our indie issue that went up in March. So that's the Sea of Stars cover. If people are looking for an easy reference, go and find Sarah's work in there. And of course, Sarah's Minecraft Legends review we'll talk about later, and that'll also be online and I believe in the magazine, all that fun stuff. So go check out all of that stuff. But I won't bury the lead. People probably saw the episode title. Marcus,
hello.
You wrote this new cover story on Diablo 4. I know how did the reveal stream go? I wasn't able to join you two.
Oh, it was a black tie affair. Very snazzy. All
it
the
was
stars
fancy.
Came out tonight, babe.
There's a reason we didn't invite you, Alex. We knew you were gonna mess it all up by showing up with a t-shirt with mustard stains on it.
That's me. You know, I'm renowned
you seem like a
for
very
showing up with mustard
clean
stains.
and kept person. I'm just messing with it.
Yeah, it's fine. My only suit is blue, so
Oh, see that.
I don't have a black suit. That's why I wasn't invited.
Right.
But I also noticed that you dressed down. I just want to point that out for audio listeners. You were dressed up this morning, but you come onto the Game Informer show and now you're both in t-shirts.
Well, I mean, if you do it all the time, Alex, it's not special anymore.
Okay, so you're telling me that I'm not worth dressing up for is what I'm hearing.
No, I'm saying you're worth an exclusive outfit.
Ladies,
which is this
if
t-shirt.
they wanted to, they would. You know, if they wanted to, they would.
Are you the person that you go on a first date with and you're like, you judge the entirety of the date based on what they're wearing? Of like, this is my opinion of you as fully formed because you wore this type of t-shirt.
I don't know. I haven't been on a first date and 14 years this week.
Oh,
So
congratulations.
Thank you.
A weird way to phrase it, admittedly. But congratulations.
I think that should be the new way to phrase it, actually.
Yeah. Marcus, I'm sorry for giving you a hard time. How is Diablo? Did you enjoy writing this cover story? Tell us what you learned.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and shut up and let you talk.
Yeah, so this cover story, the tricky thing about Diablo IV is that it's been around or out there for the last few years. Blizzard has been pretty generous with information that they've already shared about the game over those years. So at first it was like, what is there more to say about it? Especially because the launch isn't terribly far away. Thankfully they came through because we primarily discussed the in-game content, of which there is a lot. We talked about the Paragon board, which is sort of their new spin on the Paragon system from the other games. Just basically just another skill tree that opens up after you hit level 50, and you can start getting more points to further fine-tune your characters, and it basically just lets you customize your already fleshed out character in just even smaller and more specific ways. And the idea of like, it's one of the developers described it as almost like a dungeon crawl in itself, because you're sort of following these nodes and there's different skills you're trying to chase. You're like, oh, I'm going to go north because there's this thing up here that looks cool. And then you hit the edge of the board and you open a little gate that lets you slap on another board to the edge of that one that has another sort of like network of skills, and you can just keep doing that.
I really enjoyed the skill tree in the beta. I was really impressed with that. So to hear that there's even more of that is really exciting. As somebody who, I always feel like when I play games with, role playing elements to them, the one that comes to mind is, World of Warcraft for me personally. I kind of tend to go away from whatever the meta is, because it's just boring to me to follow to min-max my character.
Yeah, you're a rogue player.
Yeah. And so hearing that there's like all this tiny minutia that I can tweak is super cool, because it's like I want my character to be distinct, right? They might not be the best or most efficient character, but they're mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so hearing that they are just like doubling down on that is super exciting.
Yeah, and it's like one of the different ways they want to keep you around for the long haul. Stuff like nightmare dungeons, which only open up when you get to the Nightmare World tier and beyond. That's like the third tier. When you start the game, you only get the first two tiers until you beat that the campaign. But the idea of every dungeon in the game having a nightmare form, so you can revisit old ones and add different nightmare sigils with affixes that add like a cool or like very difficult stipulation on top of them already having like remixed and harder enemies. Like one of the ones I called out in the cover story was one that basically generates like a sentient pillar of lightning that just pursues players, and it's unkillable. So you have to like evade that on top of just running through the dungeon as you would normally. And so that makes it fun. Just the idea of like having to hunt down those different sigils, and with them being such good grind spots, because you get a lot of good loot and experience points for completing them. You can sort of plan ahead with a group of like, hey, I'm going to use this weird sigil on this dungeon, and let's just see what happens. Sit in there and have fun. Diving into Hell Tides, which are these sort of afflicted areas of the map that spawn a bunch of harder enemies. Some of which are bosses or enemies that you've beaten before, but they have like new moves and they're harder.
That's cool.
So you kind of have to change up your strategy, even if it's something that you've faced before. And those are sort of like reoccurring things, sort of like live events of like, oh, they happen once every hour or something. And so you can again plan ahead with a group of like, okay, let's tackle this Hell Tide together and see what spawns out of it. And that has its own types of rewards. I think one of the most interesting ones were the Whispers of the Dead, which is a sort of tied to the campaign. They were very coy about getting into the specifics about how you unlock it, but it's basically it's like a talking tree you meet at some point during the main game, and then in the post game, it creates these randomly generated missions that appear all over the map. And if you complete them, you get these things called grim favors that you then return to the tree. And then when you bring enough back, you get a selection of different types of reward caches to choose from. And then those refresh over time. So you're always getting a choice from something different. And so those kind of like encourage you to re-explore the map. On top of the fact that they hinted that the map itself changes after the campaign, potentially based on what you do in the story. Like they talked about how in the story you'll come across zones that are inaccessible that will open up in the post game, as well as like dungeons. I don't know what the extent of that is. Like I said, they were being pretty cagey about it, but it just everything they were saying, like that combined with the fact that, you know, this adopts the live service structure like full on. You know, Diablo 3 had a good bit of that, and Diablo 4 is leaning more into it with it being an online shared world with all these players. They're doing, you know, post-launch seasonal DLCs every few, I think they're saying like every 2 or 3 months they want to add like new dungeons, new mechanics, new story stuff. They wouldn't call them expansions. Like when I used that term, they were like, we don't want to say that. At least maybe not yet.
Or if that means they're would be bigger or smaller than what you would expect of a traditional expansion. Like what can you read into that? You know, I don't know.
They specifically use the word meaty. Like these are meaty updates.
Okay.
You know, juicy right off the grill, as Dan Tack would say, fall off the bone.
Yeah.
Updates.
Okay.
So yeah, it sounds like it'll be maybe not as big as something like, what was the Diablo 3 one, that like the Necromancer? God, it just flew out of my head. But you know what I'm talking about, right?
3 DLC.
I didn't even play that long ago.
I know exactly.
Really? Relatively
Reaper of Souls?
Yes, Reaper of Souls.
Reaper of Souls.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, like it doesn't sound like it'll, at least initially, you know, this game is going to be, they're planning on supporting this game for the foreseeable future, like years and years and years ahead. But yeah, for at least for the near future, it doesn't sound like we're going to get anything that big, but it also sounds bigger than just like, here's a dungeon, have fun.
Yeah.
You know? So we'll see how that goes. One thing I brought up too when I was asking them was just because of this live service approach, if they view Diablo 4 as a platform more than a game, of like, you know, is there going to be a Diablo 5 potentially? Like, is this going to be like a, because I remember it reminded me of like Street Fighter 5 when they announced that, and they were like, we're just not going to do Super Street Fighter 5. This is just Street Fighter going forward.
Yeah.
We're just going to keep adding stuff to it. Don't worry about it. And I asked them if that was like a similar deal with this game. And again, it wasn't like a definitive answer, but it was pretty much like a yes. Like that is, you know, like again, that is the plan of like, this is the Diablo for the next good while. Like, because I mean, they're not supporting Diablo 3, but like new content. I don't remember exactly when they stopped like straight up adding brand new content to Diablo 3, but they still update it to this day. And you know, they have a pretty good track record with updating their legacy titles for years on end. So, you know, they kind of assured me and then players by extension to like not worry about them abandoning this game sooner than maybe you might think, especially with it being all online only. You know, there's that big fear of like, you know, is this game just on borrowed time? Because it's all connected to the server. So if they ever decided to get away from it, it's like, that's it for this game. When I asked them that, they had an interesting answer where they said that after telling me to, no, not worry about it, it'll be cool. They hinted that there were systems in place that would still be accessible if and when that day comes. Like they're like, there's plenty of modes that we've designed to where, yeah, you can still play this game with friends after the fact. Again, they wouldn't get specific, and you know, of course they wouldn't because the game hasn't come out yet. But
yeah,
that was something that I know a lot of players are sort of apprehensive about when they, you know, first announced the always online requirements. So if there's any solace in that, I guess take that, you know, however you want it. But yeah, outside of just diving into sort of the in-game stuff, I also use the issue as a chance of just giving a more general primer for the game. You know, if you haven't really kept up with everything they've been dropping about Diablo 4 up to this point, this is sort of a great final roundup of here's what this game has to offer, especially if maybe you got in the recent betas that they just did. Sort of like a nice companion piece to that, diving into like a glimpse at the classes and the story, and again the always online stuff, and how they plan to support that. So yeah, I like to think that this is just like a good snapshot of what we know about Diablo 4 as of now, as we march towards June 6th that the game's coming out. Yeah,
it's close.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
I am too. I played both betas. I don't know if did you ever get back in on the second one, beta?
That's the one I really wanted to play, but I was at PAX East in Boston, and by the time I got home, I was exhausted.
Right.
Did you get to play Druid?
No, I did. I was.
That's the one I want to play.
I was stubborn. I really liked my sorceress, and I kind of wanted to keep unlocking.
You did that both 2 times in a row? Oh.
Well, no. Well, my character carried over, so I just.
Oh.
Yeah. Like they didn't
playing.
wipe.
Okay.
Yeah, I could just keep.
I thought
going.
they wiped.
I thought so too, and I was surprised to see him there. I made him look like Aladdin, and that made me very happy.
Okay.
I think I spent a full hour doing the character. And I was like, "Do I play it?" I'm like, I could play it. I could keep charactering, really fine tune it, not being able to use it in the actual game.
It's a pretty solid character creator. You can do a nice bit of stuff in there. So yeah, I just kept. I know I felt bad. I was like, because I was going to try Necromancer. But I was like, oh, maybe I could just make Quan Chi from Mortal Kombat and just throw skeletons at people.
I love that that's where your head's at. That's awesome.
Yeah, but I've had fun with the game all the times I've gotten to play it.
Me too.
Like I said, the end game stuff sounds cool, especially just the idea that there's a ton waiting after the campaign. And the campaign, they've already said previously that it takes like at least 35, 40 hours to get through on its own.
Jeez. Okay.
So
No way.
it's like if you like Diablo, they heard you and were like, what if we put some Diablo in your Diablo?
Yeah. That's awesome. I can't wait to play this. I can't wait. I really liked, we kind of already talked about it on the GI show, but I just really liked all the improvements that they're making with this, and it just feels really good. I thought like the I don't know if it was a mini boss or a proper boss fight, like that first boss in the first beta, or I guess it's like in both, like if you start a new character, regardless, that first boss you get to after the town, I just thought that like that was a really good indicator for where that game's headed, and it just feels awesome. I can't wait.
I think the thing I'm most excited about, and we have talked about this before, was just how much more cinematic it feels. Like I'm feeling more invested in the story than because Diablo 3 was my first Diablo, and I couldn't tell you what happened in that game. Like I just didn't care. I just wanted to run around dungeons and hit things, basically.
That's fair.
And a lot of it was because other dungeon crawlers have this too, where it's just like the storytelling in terms of presentation is usually limited because it's just this overhead view of little figurines with text boxes, and you're just like, okay, like I'm reading it, but like it's not sucking me in. But like with this one having a lot more in-game cutscenes and just framing things more dramatically, it's like okay, I want to know more about this Lilith, and she's doing some messed up stuff. I don't think I like that.
The game is genuinely creepy. It sometimes, like, I feel like these top-down games, they kind of lose a sense of, like, if there's like a very tense moment or something like that, I don't feel it as much because I'm like so far away from it, you know? And it's like, okay, I see the battlefield, I'm just gonna move my character where it needs to go, and I'll be good.
Yeah.
For some reason, Diablo, I had to turn the light on next to my, which is weird because it's not a horror game, right? But like they just really are nailing the theme and the tone of it.
Yeah, it's funny you don't say it's a horror game. I was like, that opening cutscene is
maybe
I was about to disagree. I was like, I was terrified the whole time. I was like, I'm not. No, maybe this isn't for me.
Yeah, that thing had some good tension in it.
Yeah, I felt it.
Oh my god, my horse.
Oh my god, yeah. The whole I can't wait.
Skin cape.
Oh yeah, sorry, that one.
I need to...
The obviously more scary one. I was like, what happened to my horse? And it's like ignoring the skin cape, people getting murdered. I'm like, that's fine. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. That's awesome. Anything else, Marcus, we should touch on before we move on?
No, that about covers it. digital issue is out now. Subscribe, give it a read. All kinds of other great stuff in there. We're going to be talking about one great piece shortly. And yeah, shout out to Blizzard for their help putting that together. And also shout out to Braum, who's the artist that did the 2 cover arts.
Yeah, the art's
so good.
The art's awesome.
Yeah. We've had a really lucky streak with custom art lately.
Yes.
And yeah, it just looks so good. Love it. All right. Well, let's get into Minecraft Legends, Sarah. I wish I could have played with you, but I was telling you before the show that my game kept crashing on PC, which I feel like I always have a little bit of an issue with Xbox games on PC. It's probably best if you just have an Xbox to play there.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do afterwards. But I'm really looking forward to this game because I sat in actually at Gamescom of all places. I sat in on a little private showing of it. I didn't get to play it myself, but they were kind of running us through, and that was when I got really excited for the game. I like Minecraft. I go through streaks. It's like my holiday game when I go back home for Christmas. Me and my brothers will just either play Fortnite or Minecraft, but I haven't really messed with any of the spin-offs. So how is Minecraft Legends? Also, what is it for people who might not be aware?
So Minecraft Legends is like a real-time strategy game in the Minecraft world. It's kind of a combo though. I think it does more than like an Age of Empires. Like you're not just looking down and you're like just telling people what to do. You're like a part of it as well, which is like really fun and also like a bit challenging. It's very different. I don't think I've played a game, at least in like my memories of like that. So basically,
that one sentence description, it kind of makes me think of Brutal Legend. Did you play Brutal Legend at all?
Oh, it's on my list. It's so high on my list because I love Jack Black. I'm just playing through Psychonauts 2 right now, and I got to the scene where he sings. So I'm just like, awesome. Okay, I have to do Brutal Legend now.
Sorry to derail you, but yeah, no. Brutal Legend it's like an RTS where you do go kind of get in the thick of it too. But no, I want to hear more about Minecraft Legends.
To be fair, now I want to play Brutal Legend. I'm totally derailed in my own mind. It's like I'll put it on my checklist and then I'll come back to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's good. You're a part of it and you get these skills. These allays they're called, and they like kind of do and build and mine for you around like the world, and you explore it and you mine and things like that. And it's honestly like stunning. Like it's beautiful to play in, and I love I'm such a Minecraft fan. I have been for like ever, and I loved Dungeons when it came out. I played like ridiculous amounts of that because it was just so fun and it felt so like referential to like what Minecraft is. It was so cubey and blocky and sweet, and everyone felt like they had a little personality. And I think that they've like done that very well in this one. Because in this version, I don't want to spoil anything. I feel like I don't want to say anything that's going to ruin the game for people. Like all the characters have kind of been like, there's some of the mobs have been like they've been given you personalities, different personality types that I think is like so compelling. Like, I'll just say one because I can't stop myself.
Yeah.
The creepers are like now, they're kind of like little puppies a little bit. So in this world, it's all peace, and the piglins are like kind of, it's almost like environmental warfare. They want to like spew the nether out into this like beautiful, pristine world where everyone's friends. And so when you're a part of the world, everyone's friends, and it's like so nice. And the creepers are like just cute little guys, and when you befriend them, you can like ally them, send them out to battle and things like that. So it is like, you really feel a part of the world. The only thing that I think I'm struggling with sometimes is the like, do you want me in the battle or do you not want me in the battle? I think that's the only part that I think is hard and I think that's like, I don't know, it feels very difficult to balance anyway. So like, kudos for doing such a good job with it. But I think like I get a bit lonely because sometimes I'm like sending all my guys in and it's like all these awesome things, and I like literally yelled at the top of my lungs, "Come on, lads!" like the other day when I was playing, which is like just insane, I think. But yeah, it felt really good. And but then there's times where you have to kind of like stay back and you're like, oh, I want to go blow up that place. I want to go join in. And then like all your friend, you like, I don't know, I feel like a bond to them now. I don't know what's going on in my head with it. But like they're all my little friends and I just want them to be okay, even though I'm sending them to war, which again, but they all go out and
I'm knew that they were signing up.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. When it was first being shown off, they had like, they would show, you quickly building things, right? Like how manual is that? Is it kind of like is it just an animation that you're watching happen, or are you getting in there with bricks and stuff?
So I almost wanted it to be more bricks. There's an option to build, and you can build lots of different things, and you can build kind of anything anywhere, which is cool. So it's like, it's all the same function to like defend villages as it is in battles. The main one is like ramps really for battles, because like other things you can't really use. And you like will set the parameters for where it is, and that can be a bit awkward, I think, for me when I'm trying, like, I don't know if it's like there's just too many things happening. It's very like overwhelming sometimes. And like trying to get the bridge to do what you want and to connect while like 10,000 piglins are like butting into you and like trying to kill you, and you're just like, oh man, this is frustrating. But then it builds in front of you gradually, so you don't, it's like not an immediate payoff. It's quite quick, but like there is still tension, I think, when you're trying to build. So yeah, it feels good. It's like, it's almost like, I think when I've been talking to like my partner about how I feel about it, I'm like, I think it's like, I want it to be more Minecraft and I want it to be more like strategy, and I don't know how that could be done. So it's almost one of those like wish into the void, like probably couldn't happen things. But I think like being more manual might have made it a little bit more like fun or like inclusive, maybe less like of me standing out on the side, sending them away while I build would have been cool. But yeah. It is really good though. Like it's almost like I think it's like eating chocolate. Like I'm just like, I'll just have one cube, and then it's like 6 hours have passed. I've eaten like the entirety of my house, and I'm like, oh no.
I really want to play it multiplayer because I love playing RTS games in that kind of setting, and I really want to try that out. Did you get a chance? And I know that there was like the servers.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were online. There was like, it's very hard to find games. Were you able to find any with other people?
I haven't had a chance.
Mostly solo for you.
Yeah, I've just been able to play
totally
solo.
fair.
I know I went on and it was like, I was told like, they were like, oh wait, times are expected to be long. And I was like, that's fine. But every time I've tried, it's just been like not working. So I think like if you can find someone else like in the review period with you, you can do that like within your like Minecraft or like Microsoft account. So I'm going to try that hopefully tonight. Because
Awesome.
it looks fun. From what I can tell, it's like you share resources. So you'd share resources and work together. But we'll see what that's like to play. I think it would be more fun, definitely multiplayer. It definitely, like Dungeons. Yeah. Dungeons was the same though. I think that was a great game. I loved it. But it was so much more fun when you're like working with someone and it's all very dynamic and someone's got a better idea and you're like, I've got the better idea, and it becomes very intense.
Yeah, that's the only time I ever played Dungeons was with other people.
Yeah.
And yeah, also that game got surprisingly hard at points where you kind of needed other people.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this feels like it's getting like you can wander into areas. One thing I didn't like, I will say, is like I wandered into an area and it said you're not like equipped to deal with this yet, so turn around. And I thought, oh well, I'd rather fail than like be told I can't try kind of thing. I'd much rather like fail badly, lose all my resources and have to start again. Because it's not so challenging that like getting resources isn't so hard, and like, you know, it's not like the end of the world. So I'd like to be able to reach the end of the world and fall off it to try again.
Yeah. So I guess the sequencing of everything that's happening. So the piglins they have their base and stuff. You are attacking them. Are you ever defending from them as well? Or is it, you are?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the villages are all, this is kind of my favorite part of the game, I think. I love attacking and it's like really adrenaline rush fun. But like when you build and get resources, really the point is to create these like beautiful defense lines around these villages, and also then your allies, because they have little homesteads, which is where you get like the benefit of them, and you like free them and like make sure that they're all safe and happy. And from there every night, so it's like a cyclical day-night thing. And at night the piglins will pick somewhere to attack. And you kind of get this looming message throughout the day saying like, they're making plans. Have you thought about your friends and villages? Because they have all the chests. You want all the stuff in the chests, don't you? And you're like, I do. So then I was like running around to everywhere trying to make sure that they were all fortified. And I think that's like probably the most fun, is like this beautiful, like big tower defense. And there's like, and as you unlock more and upgrade more, you can do more, which is like really fun. So you can get a lot more insane with how defensive you want to get with the villages.
And so are you, like, when you're going to these different villages, are you just like running through the open world kind of, or the overworld? Okay, that's cool. I like that a lot.
It kind of feels like the game, to be fair. Like when you like stumble upon a village, the map is like, it shows you where everything is. So you do like know, because otherwise I don't think they could tell you like, oh, this one's being attacked now.
Sure.
Better get to that, or else, which I didn't, by the way. You will feel awful if you don't. Please do. My gosh, I've never felt worse when they're like, well, hope you're proud of yourself, and I'm like, I'm not.
Yeah.
I promise I'm not. So, but yeah, I think it's all this beautiful open world, it's all biomes, and you just like stumble upon them. And there's like a lot, I think, and I'm not going to say anything from this point because this is way more fun. But there's so much out there just like ambiently existing in the world that you can just stumble upon, and you're like, oh, what is this? And then the game is like, come back to the well and I'll tell you. It's like, oh.
That's the thing that I'm taking away from all this is like, it seems like there's a lot more like world building and story than I expected. And like, I just thought it would be like, you know, an RTS. You're mostly thinking about menus and moving troops around and stuff, but it sounds like there's a lot more going on, which has me more interested than I think anything up to this point has made me.
It's like a lot less static than I thought. I thought it would be like, I have an amount of people that are gonna fight for me, and that's not the case. They kind of like dissipate, and you use this like one of the resources that like comes back or hits maximum amounts, and you can keep getting more, and you can change and things like that. It's a bit more, I don't know, it feels movable. It feels really like welcoming to people that don't know how to play RTS games, I think, because like I sometimes find them overwhelming. Like now, like as a kid I played like Age of Empires, all of those ones like to death. But I think like as an adult, I've stopped playing them for some reason, and I think sometimes I get into them and I can get a bit like overwhelmed by the complications of it all. Whereas this feels so accessible, to just kind of like jump in and have fun, and then maybe you can move on to something a bit like more complicated down the line. It kind of opens you up to more games, which I always love when something can do that. Plus, it's like Minecraft, so it's like a great like come and enjoy Minecraft, and also try this new way of playing a game that you may not have given a chance to before.
And totally controller works great, like no problem there.
I haven't had any problems. They have a lot of accessibility settings to switch things as well that I haven't really played with myself, but they've got that. They have color blindness. I haven't gone through all of the accessibility settings yet, but they say they've got quite a few in there, which is really good as well.
Because RTS is on consoles, there's always that line of like, I kind of wish I had a mouse, but
I think there are moments of it, I will say.
Yeah.
Did you ever play the old Lord of the Rings 360 game that was an RTS? What was that game
Oh my
called?
gosh.
Battle for Middle Earth, is that what it's called?
Maybe that's what it was, yeah. Oh, I played the hell out of that game. And I just lost my headphones. Shit.
Oh, what just happened? Oh,
Headphones
Alex
gone.
lost his headset.
He unplugged them.
Sorry. Yeah, I have my I have active feet, you know, like I'm fidgeting under my desk with my feet.
Active.
And I don't know what the word is. And I always pull my headphone jack out of my headphones. It drives me nuts. But yeah, Battle for Middle Earth. Oh, I love, and I think specifically the second one is the one I played on 360. I loved that game. But that's good that the controller works mostly well. I feel like there's always, when in RTS, there's always going to be that kind of thought lingering in the back of your mind. It's like, would this be better if I was, had a mouse and keyboard in front of me? But
I think it's only when you have like those double ups of things that can only be done like with Y. The amount of times when I was like, go there, little guys, go. And then they're just like, nothing happens, and I'm building a bridge. I'm like, oh, I don't want to build. I want to send my little guys. And then it's like everything starts to deteriorate. And it's like, it can sometimes be like that kind of thing. But even then, it's like, I think it's such a simple concept for this one. You're not really, the stakes aren't so high that it like ruins your day. Whereas I think like some of them definitely, it's like, if something goes wrong, it's like, oh my God, my whole strategy is gone out the window.
Well, cool. I'm very eager to get this thing downloaded finally and working on my PC or Xbox, because it sounds like it's right up my alley. Like I said, I love Minecraft, and I haven't played one of these spin-offs, and I grew up on RTS games, so it seems like the perfect time to try out one of them. So yeah, I'm stoked. And hearing you say like Minecraft has just like a very particular, its aesthetic is very obvious, it's all voxels, but like the lighting is always so good. And from seeing it in person at Gamescom and just like watching trailers and stuff, can't wait to be back in that world.
It was
exploring the biomes.
Yeah, a lot more. The lighting was a lot more intense than I thought it was going to be. I think because I kind of like to like stay out too much. If I want to review a game, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to see too much of this because I want to see what I feel when I see it. That was a weird sentence. But
no, that's fair.
No, it makes total sense. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
So with this, I was like, I'll just like go in and you start with like a tutorial, so I don't think you really get the scope of like how it's gonna look. And it's like sunset. I was really like taken aback by how because it was so blocky, but it was really dynamic. I just thought I was honestly so impressed, and it's, you know, I mean, again, I'm a Minecraft fan, so, but when you play it, I think just Minecraft, or like core Minecraft without any like shaders or anything on like that, it looks still pretty like old school, I think, in a way.
Yeah, it does.
Whereas this definitely feels like a cool cousin that's just like awesome and wears leather jackets.
That's awesome. I in the December 2020, I was in the pit. It was, well, we were all in the pandemic, but I was on this shared disc, or what was it? It was like a modded server is what it was. And so I had to install all the mods to join their server. And I had never played with shaders before, like extra shaders. And that was the first time I was like, oh my God, this is wild. And so it's cool to see like newer releases kind of following, you know, in that trajectory as well.
Did they ever have that? Wasn't there going to be like a huge ray tracing update to the base, like regular Minecraft, that took forever to happen?
I
Did
think they might
do that
have.
yet?
I don't know.
I don't
I
follow
remember the
Minecraft
video.
super closely. But
Like it was
I
viral.
mean,
I remember like
I
somebody's modded Minecraft. I thought it was official though. I think you're
was
right.
There
like
was
an
like an
E3, right?
E3 thing.
Yeah, it was like
I think,
super duper update, whatever they called it.
yeah, I think that
something
got
like
canceled.
I remember seeing the video. Did it get canceled?
I don't think that ever came out. I think they pulled it back.
Huh.
Yeah, I just remember the announcement and then the subsequent years of people being like, "Hey, is that still happening?"
Yeah.
I think there's so
I'm
many
looking up.
like
Yeah, Super
like
Duper
mods and things
Graphics
you
is
can
what it
add.
was called.
Right.
Super
Okay.
graphics.
Yeah, here's 5 years ago, in E3, and I'm pretty sure it just got straight up canceled.
Huh? And they
Aw.
haven't gone back in that since then. Like,
think
hey,
so.
just kidding. Ray tracing, here you go. Just because you're here, like you guys mentioned, like the newer games.
I know on
have it,
Windows.
Yeah, here, quick
Windows
PC
has
Gamer
it.
story: Minecraft's Super Duper Graphics pack canceled for being too technically demanding. Mo Yang
Oh.
says.
it was too much
Oh,
duper.
okay.
And
Yeah, too much
Yeah.
Duper. And that story, that was a 2019 story. So they announced it at E3 on the Microsoft stage, and then they're like,
No way.
actually, JK, we're gonna make Minecraft Legends. I guess I don't.
They were like, all that tech, something else. Don't worry about it. You'll see it in a while.
Yeah.
Just hold on.
I know that they have ray tracing for PC Minecraft,
okay.
but it's not anywhere to the level that Super Duper update was. But it does make a difference. It is pretty.
Okay.
It can get away with a lot.
yeah.
I was surprised that they wanted to promise so much because they really didn't need to do that much for it to be more beautiful. I thought, like, I was like, oh, this is cool, but like, even just a few changes would be nice. Please don't promise the super duper. Just the super's fine for me, to be honest. I'll take-
Yeah.
like,
We
do you know
would have
what I mean?
settled for Duper. Like,
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
duper's
yeah.
great. Is that on the table? Can I have that? Nope.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, of course, go and read Sarah's Minecraft Legends review. Have you put a score on it yet? I know that it depends on where you're at in the writing process. And if you haven't, that's totally fine. You don't have to say one.
I'm like right at the end of it. It's like, I think it's teetering for me between like a 7 and an 8. I keep going
Okay.
between the two because of some of the frustrations, but I think that like, I think it's really hard because you want to be, because the Minecraft of it all is perfect, but I think almost like that doesn't give it a pass on the parts that aren't great, you know?
Yeah. That's
So
fair.
between a 7 and an 8, I think, but it's one of those that like, it's like definitely a recommend rather than a not recommend, I would say.
Sure.
Yeah.
Nice. Game Pass game, I assume.
Yes, yeah, I believe it's coming out on Game Pass for PC and console. They
Nice.
say.
Yep.
So they say.
Yeah. So they say.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Thank you for talking about Minecraft with us, Sarah.
Thank you.
Kyle, we're gonna go to you. You've been playing a few games. You weren't able to join us last week, but in the meantime, you've played Disney Illusion Island as well as Immortals of Aveum. Did you go? You went on a trip, right?
Yeah. So
I'm also not just like asking that question rhetorically.
Yeah,
I was out last week and I felt like so out of the loop.
yeah.
You went somewhere, right?
Yeah. So so
Okay.
Disney Illusion Island, I did not play, sadly, but I got like a hands-off presentation and talked with the sort of creative director for a while. And then Immortals of Aveum, I went to the studio and played the game. They had sort of a closed presentation where they shared a lot about the game, but then I was among very few who were actually there who got to put hands on the controller. There were.
And where did you go?
It was in California. It was like near San Francisco is where the studio is, Ascendant. But yeah, so I was there, like, which was fun. Another fun element of it was like, if you don't know, we'll start with Immortals of Aveum, then I'll talk a little bit about Disney Illusion Island. But lately, especially post pandemic, what they'll do is they'll have like closed preview events, right? So they'll invite journalists to attend these presentations that maybe take like an hour or something, where they show off the game, and they do like, they let you ask questions to the director or something. Sometimes they'll like have isolated interviews like scheduled separately. Those have been going on for like a few years now. That's pretty common to have that kind of thing. So they did that for Immortals of Aveum, and the funny thing is like, I was actually in the studio when that was airing live. Like, I was there hanging out while they were, answering questions on this like closed live interview after they had shown like a new trailer and they showed some gameplay and stuff like that. And then I went and played the game for about an hour and chatted with members of the staff and stuff like that, talked to the creative director and all that. And it's funny, I haven't been talking through all this. This is the first time I've kind of thought through it and talked about what I did. I there's going to be a big feature in the next issue that I have not started writing, so I'm kind of like haven't really thought through all my impressions and have quotes off the cuff and stuff like that. But
also, we should say this is an FPS, a magic based FPS.
Yeah, so
right?
they showed it at Game Awards. They had like the epitome of a teaser where it was like they showed this thing. It was like it showed a character like walking outside, and there was a bunch of magic stuff happening. And I certainly was like, I don't know what this is. I don't understand what this teaser is. This thing must be really early, right? Like they don't have a lot to show yet. But it turns out the game's like a few months away, and what it is a first-person shooter where instead of using guns, you're using magic attacks. And what that means is like you have the magic equivalent of a shotgun. You have the magic equivalent of a machine gun. You have the magic equivalent of like a sniper rifle. And, you have all these different abilities and stuff. And sorry, I haven't really thought through this thoroughly yet.
No, you're fine. Is it like finger guns for these weapons,
you
or
have
is
this
it like
I forget what it's called. You have this this bracelet that lets you do.
Oh, does it talk to you?
No, it does not. But I did. It does. There are some sort of forspoken vibes about the game because it's very contemporary, and even the soundtrack is very much like a hip hop soundtrack. Like it is like hip hop beats against orchestration and stuff as you're running around shooting magic attacks and stuff like that.
That's cool.
I think that's why when this game was announced, I remember very, very briefly thinking it was a sequel to Godfall.
I mean,
oh, wow.
yeah, it did, like visually,
like aesthetically, it had a similar.
Yeah, I mean, it's very different, but like if you looked at screenshots of those side by side, I could see you being like, oh, these might do these take place in the same universe? And the answer is that they do not. But I'm trying to look up the creative director's name. Marcus, you actually spoke to him recently because his big claim to fame is that he was creative director for the original Dead Space.
Oh, Glenn Schofield?
No, not Glenn Schofield. I'm looking it up now.
Yeah.
You did a cool interview where you spoke with the creative director of the remake, and
right.
Brett Robbins is his name.
I was like, oh boy.
And along with Dead Space, his background is Call of Duty. Like he did the campaigns for like World War II and Advanced Warfare, and as a result, playing the game, it feels like Call of Duty with magic attacks, like in a very complimentary way. Like it feels very smooth, and the magic shooting felt really good, and running around felt good. And their priority is hitting that sort of 60 FPS style of Call of Duty. And the person who's in charge of the whole project, who like built the studio from the ground up, has that history. Like he worked extensively on Call of Duty for many years. So
I love Call of Duty.
I mean, yeah, and it's
I like magic.
I was impressed. Like it feels good. Like it's the simple pitch of like Call of Duty, but you have magic. It's like, okay, but then you play it and it's like, okay, yeah, this feels like Call of Duty, but you have magic. and then it's very much a single player campaign. They were very clear. There's like no monetization. There's no multiplayer. This is a story-driven game, and I think like the sort of story that Brett Robbins was saying is like, he moved away from Call of Duty. He actually sort of was working on Call of Duty and was like, watching a sequence where like a helicopter was shooting missiles at the player, and he was like, oh, this would be cool if it was like dragons and fireballs. And that was sort of like the germ of the idea, and he went and like wrote up a whole sort of universe that he wanted to pursue, and like they've been working on it for like 4 or 5 years or something like that. Like I in retrospect, I was almost kind of surprised at how little they showed at the Game Awards, because it's much closer to the finish line.
Isn't it rumored to release this summer?
Yeah,
I thought I saw a headline.
Yeah, I don't think it's even a rumor at this point. I think we can share the release date, which I don't have in front of me, but it's later this summer. But yeah, I mean, it surprised me. Like my question marks are mostly around the story and the characters. Like the protagonist was kind of like, okay, I don't know about this guy. We'll see. But there are other characters that I was really drawn to that I was like, okay, she seems really interesting. Like the woman in charge, is like I liked her dialogue and her interactions with the protagonist and stuff like that. And I mean, yeah, it's the kind of game that I'm into, which is like, yeah, just a single player campaign that is very focused on being a single player campaign, and there's puzzles intermixed with the sort of magic shooting and stuff like that. I had one sequence where like there's this giant like statue hand, and I had to use magic to like lower the hand down so I could jump on the hand to get to the other side of the valley and stuff like that.
I was gonna ask, what kind of spells are you using? Like, is it all offensive? Is it like traversal stuff, like you mentioned, bringing the thing down? Like, are you using like telekinesis and stuff like that?
So you have a double jump, but mostly, and then you have a shield that you can throw up but it slows you down your movement, right? You have a shield that you can throw up and shoot through, but then you don't move as quickly.
I like.
And the whole idea there was like they did not want to make it a cover shooter. They want it to be a game where you're sort of out there and doing stuff. So it's like you're double jumping and dashing and throwing up a shield when your back's against the wall, and then you're switching between these 3 types of magic, which are color coded, red, green, and blue, and then those correspond to the enemies that you're fighting. So like if a blue guy's coming at you, like you should probably switch to the blue gun, which kind of feels more like a sniper rifle, and if there's a green guy over there, you probably want to switch to your green, which feels more like a shotgun. So that you can get in there. Actually, excuse me, it's red, to be clear. The red feels more like a shotgun. So you want to get over. You
can kill them with any color, but is it just the corresponding color is more effective?
Yes. Yeah, that's the idea. I think maybe like late game, there might be some instances where like you have to break through their blue shield and then you can use different weapons. But mostly it's going to be like, if you really like using the shotgun magic, that's not what they call it. That's what I'm calling it. If you really like using the shotgun magic, you can kind of stick with that, right? Like you can focus on that. You can level up all your gear in that direction, but you're going to do more damage if you try to like switch weapons a lot and do color coding and stuff like that. And then you also have like a whip attack that you can like pull enemies towards you. And I believe in some instances you can pull yourself towards an enemy. Yeah. Immortals of Aveum. I really had no idea what to expect going into it. Because like that teaser from Game Awards was so short and didn't really betray what the game was. And then in the sort of presentation, they were like sort of talking about their Call of Duty history and how they kind of wanted to make a shooter with magic. And from what I played, which was about an hour, I was impressed. I was like, this feels good. This feels like a Call of Duty style shooter, but with cool, fancy looking magic attacks.
Yeah, it seems to be becoming a little bit of a trend between, because, you know, Forspoken, I mean, that was a third person shooter with magic, and then like Ghostwire Tokyo last year felt like that was like a first person shooter with just magic finger guns. There was that remember that battle royale that was just magic,
right?
Got shut down. What was that called? But it was like first person magic and it was a battle royale. It was around for a bit. I don't remember the name, but I remember playing it and thinking it was pretty fun.
I mean, there were in that sort of Doom, you know, late Doom era, there was stuff like Hexen, right? Like it was popular for a period, like in the 90s, but then it's kind of disappeared, and now it's sort of coming back again for some reason. We all just
there's a roguelike indie game that was similar to that. I've also, the name escaped me, but I played like a good bit of it. I think it came out last year, 2021. I hate myself for not remembering its names, but
that was also 2 years ago, by the way.
Which one?
2021.
I said last year or 2021. Nah.
Oh, I thought you said last year, 2021. I was like, Marcus, honey, it's 2023, baby. Okay.
Thanks, Daddy.
Yeah, no worries.
This was not what I was anticipating hearing when I came on the show.
Yeah, me neither, honestly.
This is how our relationship is.
Is it? Well, cool. Thanks for sharing, Kyle.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about Disney Illusion Island.
Yeah, so that was much more of a sort of typical hands off. I think I was on a call with them for maybe about 45 minutes or an hour. and they showed me a cutscene from Disney Illusion Island, and then they played a bunch of it, and then I talked to the director for a while one-on-one. And the big thing that surprised I've been into this game since it was announced because it kind of reminds me of Rayman.
The first I heard of it was seeing your feature in the proofer.
Yeah, because they had they was at a Nintendo Direct, I think it was when it was announced.
Because it's coming to Switch first. And it's basic. It looks like Rayman, which is a compliment. You know, Rayman is like one of the best 2D platformers of the last decade.
Rayman Origins and Legends specifically.
Yes.
Also, it's a shame we haven't gotten a third one of that.
Well, let me tell you about Disney Illusion Island, which
because I wanted to ask, like, how Rayman is this game?
I mean, it looks pretty Rayman. And you know, they talked. I asked them about Rayman, and they were very complimentary. I mean, their sort of answer was kind of like, obviously, we're pulling from a lot of different platformers, and Rayman's one of the best ones of the last, you know, whatever how many years. So of course we're going to look at that one. But it's up to 4-player. It's co-op. You can play as Mickey, Minnie, Goofy, or Donald, and they all control the same. They don't have unique abilities, which is very much how Rayman worked as well, as another point of comparison. Like, it's more a matter of just finding a character you like and sort of gravitating towards their animations and stuff. But like, the platforming looked smooth. It looks good. I did not play it, so it's hard for me to say how it felt. I'm just going off of what they showed me. But the thing that really kind of blew my mind, and like I almost wanted to pause the presentation and be like, wait, hold on. Can we talk about this for a few minutes? Was there was one moment just in the middle where they paused it, and there was like a Metroid map. Like, it was a full, like, interconnected map. It is not a game of levels. It is a full big world. And I was like, wait, what? This is not what I expected at all.
4-player Metroid.
Yeah. And then when I asked them about it, they said it's not so like hardcore. Like, Metroid is an inspiration, but it's not like they set out to make a Metroid game. It seems like it's more just that's the sort of framework that they wanted to stick with to make a more like cohesive world that you're moving around in. And then the other interesting thing that caught me by surprise is like there are some enemies in the game. Like, I saw a few, but you do not fight them. There's no attack button. You don't jump on their head. If you encounter an enemy, your only strategy is to just stay away from them or avoid them. There is no combat in the game. It is all platforming. Just like 100%
so you can't jump on
challenges.
people's heads. Like,
if you can, I think you just take damage. I didn't see them do it. The one or two enemies that they encountered, they just stayed away from. And then they showed me like a boss fight as well, where they were fighting this plant. And even that was all about just like platforming challenges. Like, if it kind of presented itself as a boss, but really what you're doing was just trying to jump and avoid obstacles and like hit a switch over here or something like that.
Weird.
And it surprised me,
odd.
but like it made me also kind of excited for it, because it's like it's focused purely on like platforming challenges and exploration. And their sort of IP reasoning was like, Mickey's not really beating up animals, like that the Mickey crew doesn't really fight. And it's like,
Mickey will spill blood.
Have they played Kingdom Hearts?
Well, yeah, this is like, I don't know why non-violent, because like that game is.
He kicks a lot of butt in those games.
Yeah, but that's Square Enix's bizarre interpretation that has gotten so far away from Disney that they don't even know how to give them feedback at this point, I'm sure. It's like, well, you're doing what?
Gave up.
Mickey's got like a king? He wears like okay, whatever. You got your fans seem to get it, so you guys keep rolling. That's what I assume the Disney emails are like to the Kingdom Hearts team. But I mean, the game will be made or broken on how good the platforming feels, and I can't speak to that. I don't know how it feels, but like those few elements of like a Metroid map with like a big world, it's like, oh, that's cool, that's exciting. I like the idea of a big interconnected world that you can kind of explore it as a whole, as opposed to going level by level. It looks great. The animations are fantastic. The Battletoads game that came out on Xbox in the last couple of years, I know it didn't like review particularly well, but I mean, I think the animations were well liked, and this is the team. This is Delilah. They're the team that made Battletoads. And then the cutscene that they showed me was funny. It's like kind of that contemporary Mickey of, I don't know if you guys have watched the more recent shorts that are really kind of zany and energetic and really quite good. I really like it.
Because it's that same art style of like the modern Mickey cartoons.
But they did say that they weren't like interacting with those Disney animators. They didn't like it's not meant to be an adaptation of the modern shorts as much as it's just like that's who Mickey is in 2023, which is like, sure, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for this game. I like a good platformer. I like Mickey. I like the modern version of Mickey. I like those shorts, and it all makes me excited to check it out and play it. And I like the idea of like a no combat, let's just focus completely on platforming challenges kind of game. Like that seems cool.
Yeah, I like that. I wonder if that's like a scope limitation. Like they're like, okay, we've got this much budget. Well, let's just not put any combat in it. Let's just,
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
not that that's a bad thing, but like a limitation like that can kind of breed interesting results. I wonder if it was like that kind of thing or what.
Yeah, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around that. You're so trained for platformers that at least like, oh, I can jump in someone's head or do something. That'll be fun, especially with 4 players, and you kind of have to worry about your friends not getting hit by things, especially if they can't defend themselves. In the traditional sense, I guess. That should make for some very funny moments.
Yeah.
I think like my favorite parts of Psychonauts 2 were the bits with no enemies, to be fair. And that's like a platform. Obviously, I don't know, they might be very different, but I think that like there's like you can do a lot with no combat at all. And I'm like a big fan of like that. And I think, yeah, you've really like intrigued me now into like seeing what it's going to be all about.
Yeah. Hey, I recently beat Psychonauts 2. Like I played it when it came out, but finally beat like the last hour or two, like kind of recently, because I wanted to watch Psych Odyssey without spoilers. And I like that game a lot. I don't think it would have been hurt by not having combat in it. They've taken it out.
Like I don't mind the boss battles, and like seeing Psych Odyssey, I watched all of it, and then I was just like, man, that was so much trouble for something that I thought was great. But like the bits that are like my favorite are the ones that like make me cry, like when Jack Black sings a song and you've done all that work and you've done all these things. It's like that landed so hard that like the casino fight was like fine. And I feel bad for saying that, because I think it is an excellent boss fight, but they did such a good job of the platforming that I almost was like, okay, back to the more fun stuff that I love, which
Yeah. I'd say if we all play together, I got dibs on Donald.
He was the funniest one in the cutscene to me.
I'll play Goofy. I'll play Goofy because then I can be
do a
annoying and
Goofy
do my
impression?
Goofy impression and annoy everybody I'm playing with, and it'll be a good time.
Can you do it now?
yeah, this feels
That
like
was a
a,
cute.
yeah.
I think I
Yeah,
can.
that was a-
So I don't know how podcasts work. Can I just
I've got stage
there you go.
fright.
He does say.
What's
I was
Goofy
gonna
say?
give you a quote from like a Goofy movie.
Sure, Mickey.
Maybe just yell Max, like you're scared,
know.
like when they're going over the waterfall.
Oh, what? Yeah.
All right. Nailed it.
sorry, I just snorted. That made me laugh.
Max. Pretty good,
Oh,
right?
that classic line from a Goofy
Man.
movie.
Max,
Goofy
I'm your
movie.
dad. Yeah. I love you,
Yeah, like,
Max.
I
It's
guess
just turning.
Goofy does
It's
have a
turning into like a
southern
Southern
twang.
American South,
Honestly,
like
yeah. I guess he's from
guy just
Alabama.
yelling.
This is a secret origin story.
he does. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he's from Mobile. But yeah, so I dibs on Goofy for that reason alone. Marcus, take us home. Tell me about what you've been playing. I know you've been playing Meet Your Maker. You also sent me a list of like 10 games that you played on your staycation.
Yeah, we'll start with Meet Your Maker. This is by Behavior Interactive.
Yeah.
Dropped last week. It's free on PlayStation Plus. One of the free games for this month. It is I'm trying to think of how to describe it. It's like a part like city fort builder thing, and then part like fast-paced shooter, but you're not going around murdering a bunch of guys. You're just entering these really small sort of like intricate dungeons that are filled with traps, and you're just trying to retrieve stuff in the middle and then get out of there without dying. So the idea is that it has such a weird intro because you're being told what to do by this giant fetus that's just talking to you.
Yeah, okay.
And that fetus is probably 99% evil. Like it's one of those things those characters you meet, you're like, you're gonna turn on me in like the third act, aren't you?
Yeah.
And you're gonna say that you're the ultimate life form or something. Yeah, this fetus is like, hey, you need to go out and get these crafting materials, and then we can use those to build our own little forts and stuff. And that'll be good for this planet that's dead. So it's run based. You start out with a loadout, you get a melee weapon and a firearm, and you're going through these small little tightly packed dungeons. And the kicker with this game is that, at least as far as I know, I haven't played like a ton, but you can only take one hit before you die. And so you're trying to run in and out of these places and basically do as flawless a run as possible, because there's enemies inside, there are wall traps, there's all these different hazards, and you cannot get hit by any of them. And again, you have to go out too, and then they throw more traps at you on the exit. So you go in, you find the like core or whatever it is waiting at the center or the middle, and as soon as you grab it, it's like, all right, we're gonna throw more stuff at you, get out of here. And when you die, you have to start over from the beginning. And I will say that this game pissed me the hell off because of that. It feels, again, I don't know if there's a bunch of different upgrades. There's different stations in your home base for like weapons and armor. There's different types of armor that you can wear that sort of increase certain traits of like, okay, this armor is best suited for melee combat, this one's best suited for long range combat. I don't know if there's one that lets you take another hit. I hope so, because it's rough in the beginning. Like, it's hard.
I'm seeing on the description on PlayStation Store, create to destroy, build a maze of devious death traps designed to lure, outwit, and kill trespassing players.
Yeah.
Combine a huge array of blocks and traps and guards. Pre-record custom patrol paths for your guards with the innovative AI recording system.
Yeah.
And it also says, meet your maker, yada, 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 where every level is designed by players.
Well, the levels I played were not designed by players. At least I haven't opened that part of the game yet. It was just
the developers technically have played their own games.
That is true. That's not incorrect. And I've only seen glimpses of that stuff. Like you see a bit of that stuff in the beginning, but I haven't gotten that far in the game to unlock the like, I haven't built anything myself yet. Just because I haven't gathered enough materials, so I'm still in the retrieving phase. But yeah, I will say I was just put off by how challenging it is. Like, the first real dungeon took me forever to get through. Like, you get a few practice runs that are pretty easy, and then the first real one, it's like, oh my god, there's like, because a lot of the traps are hidden pretty well. Like, you can, when you know what to look for, like there's like wall panels that shoot darts. You're like, okay, that one, I know what it looks like. You can shoot it and break it and take the materials from it. But some of them are hidden in places where, like, oh, it's underneath you and you're just running, and then you just don't realize you stepped on something, or something's right above you that you can't see and you just get shot suddenly. And then because you have to start over and do it again, it's a lot of trial and error in a way that after a few runs, it stopped being fun, just because I found myself having to just walk on eggshells constantly. And it felt like I wanted to just run in and, like, you know, boom, 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 like almost Doom style. Like, okay, this guy's here, sword, stabbed him. All right, this guy I'm going to shoot. Also, again, this is the first weapon I have, but you get this sort of, this gun that sort of fires a lob shot. Like, it shoots at an arc instead of just straight ahead. And you only get 2 shots for the entire run. And again, there's like 2 enemies and 1 maze, and then there's multiple death traps. You're like, okay, I get 2 shots with this. What do I use this for? And then, you know, you have your sword, but, you know, you have to get close for it, so you're putting yourself at risk. And so, like, there's a fun challenge in, like, trying to figure out how to make the most with what you have, but also it almost sometimes doesn't feel like it's quite enough, especially, again, in the beginning. It's like, I feel like I need more just so I can get a better handle on how shooting feels. The way the controls are mapped, I'm also not super
That's
big
how I
on,
play
because
Halo. That's
melee
good.
is on the left trigger.
It's good, Marcus.
And
you
so
like
it,
it.
like, you know, shooting's on the right. See, I like I would rather if you either click a stick, or if it's on the right like the right bumper, so that, like, all the offense is on one side. But that's a me thing. I don't think you can change it. I remember looking and I didn't really immediately see an option to change it. But you can't aim iron sights either, which makes aiming tough on a gun that shoots at an arc. So, like, you really have to take your time trying to aim, but you don't have time for that because they're shooting at you and the enemies are incredibly accurate. And you're trying to move around, but also like, oh, I wish I could just zoom in. I feel like I would hit this guy, and then you miss, and you're like, well, there's one of my 2 shots for this entire level. So I wasted it.
I know you're saying
wanna
these
try
things
it.
as negative things, but then there's part of me that's like, this sounds like my kind of game.
It's again, I need to play more. It's like I can see the appeal, and I got some of it the first few runs. Like, oh, okay, there was a fun challenge, but again, it's like I think the biggest thing that I'm having a problem with is that you're so fragile. If I could just take 2 or 3 hits, because then it feels like, okay, I'm still trying to figure out where all the death traps are, and like, because again, I'll turn a corner and then just get shot by something out of my blind side, and you're like, okay, well, I didn't know that was there. And now I know I have to like peek and see what that was and then see if I can kill it. It feels like the deck's stacked against you in a way where you kind of have to go in and just do run after run after run and try to, because you'd also, when you die, I think you only get a percentage of the loot that you got in to take back to your base so that you can unlock more stuff. So, it's a slower grind unless you're successful. So it definitely seems like one of the games that it as a whole, it feels like a grind of like, okay, well, let me just get a few more metal scraps and then maybe I can make a suit that's better. Again, I haven't gotten to the point where you start making your own stuff, so I don't know how that's integrated into the, dungeon crawling part of it. I need to play more of it, but I will say, like, I fired it up the morning after it launched because I was like, oh yeah, it's free, I can check this out. And then about an hour or and a half later, I was like, not rage quitting, but I very angrily went back to the main menu and I hit quit because I was just so frustrated. I'm like, oh my god, like this is pretty steep right up front. So yeah, I want to go back into it and give it another chance. But yeah, I guess I wasn't ready for the level of challenge that it throws at you immediately.
Yeah, that part sounds difficult. Well, thanks, sir. I was aware of this game. I didn't really know what it was. And you describing it, number one, I redeemed it on PS Plus, but number two, I might just grab it on Steam with a press account. Because it looks like it looks intriguing. I'll say that.
It also has co-op. So I wonder how it might be easy. I don't remember how many players co-op, but I just remember now that you can play with someone else. So maybe that makes things easier or maybe harder if your partner is is getting it constantly.
The whole like Mario Maker aspect of it, where you're like
building your own stuff.
Yeah, and sharing it out and like iterating on it is really kind of potentially scratching an itch for me. I haven't played it, obviously, but yeah. It sounds like it's definitely like has a lot of flaws.
I miss Marcus. Did you say what you're playing it on?
Yeah.
This one, okay. I have a.
I'm playing on PS5.
On Steam Deck, and I wonder how it does, or a Steam, and I'd like to play it on Steam Deck. I wonder how it plays on Steam Deck.
We should check it out together, Kyle.
Sure. let's stream it.
Oh yeah, you don't play multiplayer games, do you? Yeah, you're.
Talk about how excited I was for a single player shooter just not a few minutes ago.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I'll never invite you
That's
to
all
do
I
anything with me again. That was my fault. I apologize.
But if you want me to do a few more quick hits, I played that Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog game.
So Charles talked about that last week a bit.
No spoilers, by the way. I want to play it, so don't spoil anything.
No, yeah. I mean, Sonic is dead, by the way.
Long live Sonic.
Yeah. Sonic has been murdered, I guess. I hear it's a lot longer than you would expect it to be.
It took me about 3 hours.
Okay, that's longer than I would expect it to be. Personally,
yeah, I think I thought it was just like an hour long sort of like joke game.
Yeah.
But no, it's got a beginning, middle, and end. It's a pretty fleshed out.
And as a Sonic fan, how do you feel about it?
This is a weird thing to say of like it's one of the best Sonic games in years, purely in the sense that it's not a broken disaster and it didn't do anything that traditional Sonic games do to like anger me by virtue of not being a 3D platformer. So it turns out if you make Sonic the thing that it's weird because Sonic is a platformer, but by not doing the 3D style that has always given that series so many problems and translating into a largely narrative driven adventure, it's pretty good because the writing is really good. Maybe it's because it wasn't Sonic Team that did this, which is becoming a trend because one of the best Sonic games beyond this is Sonic Mania, and that also was not Sonic Team. So no, that's maybe a bit of a problem. But it's fun. It's like playing one of the Sonic comic books. You know, if you ever read like the Archie comic series, like letting those characters shine through just a narrative, it kind of reminds you, like, this is why I like playing these games, is hanging out with these characters, and especially in this interesting context of like, oh, they're doing a God, what's the Murder Train movie?
Murder in the Orient
Orient
Express.
Express.
Yeah, it's like that, more or less.
Polar
like,
Express.
okay, yes. Or you're like, okay, someone has murdered Sonic, and you know you're doing a thing where you're interrogating everyone. You're going car to car. There's some like decent logic where you're collecting clues and you know trying to put them together. It's not as challenging as something like a Phoenix Wright or like a Professor Layton. Like they definitely hold your hand in some instances where you're like, okay, it's pretty easy to connect certain dots. But towards the end, there's some twists where you're like, okay, I have to think about this a bit, where it sort of challenges you to remember past conversations in a way to, you know, when you get to sort of your final conclusions. And then there are these sequences where you're playing there actually is platforming, but it's like an isometric, almost like Sonic 3D Blast style, where you're just using WASD to just collect rings and jump, and they use that as like, whenever the protagonist has to think about something, you just go into these platforming segments, and that's how they represent that. But those are all right. Like it was harder for me because I'm not good with WASD in general. Like I don't play mouse and keyboard ever. I plug in a controller. But those were pretty fun. They're simple, and I think they're as complicated as they need to be given the setup. Yeah, it's just a fun, bite-sized little thing. And again, all I ask for any new Sonic project is just don't piss me off.
It's not
it succeeded, it sounds like.
Yeah, because even Sonic Frontiers, which is probably the best 3D Sonic ever, even that still has, at least to me, a fair amount of jank to it, where it, you know, some old problems rear their heads, but you know, there's improvement in other areas. But this being a more laid back and also genuinely pretty funny little narrative adventure, I was like, yeah, I would play a series of this if they ever wanted to continue this.
They want to kill other Sonic characters, beloved Sonic characters.
Big the Cat.
I was gonna say Big the Cat. He's dead.
The fish got him. They got their revenge.
I was trying to make a joke, and I realized I know nothing about Sonic past like the name, so I said his name, Big the Cat, and then just hit a wall. I was like, I have no other information to offer.
Yeah.
I think you know subconsciously he's the best character.
He's a fisherman he has a pet frog that he's missing, if I remember correctly. Is that right, Marcus? Sarah, anybody back me up?
Everything I learn about Sonic, I feel like people say anything to me, I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, that's Sonic. They're like, his name is
Sounds right.
Glub.
The Chow Garden,
he's a big
right?
friend. Oh, the Chow Garden, I do know. Yeah.
There are chows in this game.
You could never kill the chows. That would be just.
There are more chows in this game than there are frontiers. I will say though, one bone I gotta pick is that Charmy B is not in this game, but his friends are, like Vector the alligator and Espio the chameleon. They're part of Team Chaotix, but Charmy B is the third in that group, and it's weird that he's not there when the other two are. I don't understand. Charmy B, by the way, may be one of the cutest Sonic characters ever, and he's really good in Sonic X, the cartoon from like the early 2000s.
I'm googling
Charmy. Yeah, we're all looking up Charmy.
I'm getting TikTok links.
We need more Charmy B in our Sonic.
Okay.
I'm having a moment of like, okay, Marcus,
cute.
that's what you
Oh my
like. Okay,
gosh.
that's cute. Okay.
What's wrong with liking Charmy B?
Nothing, man. Nothing. You know, everyone they like what they like.
I'm feeling judged here.
I think
No
you are
judgment
being
at
judged a
all.
little.
It's
So
like a
cute.
character who has a helmet that might be part of their head, maybe. I don't know.
It's a cute bee.
It reminds me of a Metabots character, actually.
Also, it has Sonic's snout, but it's a bee. Okay.
I mean, everyone has the Sonic snout. That's just how animals look in the Sonic.
I like
universe.
Charmy B. It's like Mega Man and Sonic, you know? That would be where this character lived.
If you look up, I'm sure someone has like a best Charmy B moments from Sonic X. I think if you watch that and you hear his cute voice and his sassy personality, you'll you'll be converted to my side.
A sassy Sonic character.
I'm gonna do that
Interesting.
right after this podcast. Actually,
I see you typing it in now.
yeah,
just prepping
Sonic
it.
X. Can't wait.
But yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's again, for what seemed to be just a weird April Fool's joke, I don't want to say it's one of the best games of the year, but it's up there as like, oh, what a nice surprise.
Yeah.
Like, this is actually really fun.
Maybe.
There's more to this than I thought there would be.
Maybe we'll make up an award for it at the end of the year, which we do sometimes, right? Just to kind of like give a nice little shout out to projects we were impressed with, best April Fool's joke about killing a major video game mascot.
I like that. Remember that. Remember that award
That exact title.
for December. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, I think that's going to do it for the show this week. Before we get out of here, though, Sarah, where can people find your work? Also, thank you again I know it's late for you. Thank you for joining us and hanging in there with us and sharing all your lovely insights. Where can people go and find your other work at?
You can find me on Twitter, and my handle is Sarah Thwaites. Very original, very cool, and not my name, no. But you can find me on there, and I'll post all about stuff I'm doing and things like that, and occasionally food I eat, which is also nice. So I post on there pretty regularly about the things I'm up to. So yeah.
Awesome. And then your last name is spelled Thwaites.
That's me.
For fans
I realized
that
like you
were,
guys all have professional like names, and mine's Thwaite for it, which is like my gamer tag, and I was like, oh.
No, I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I saw that and it was very good.
12-year-old me was a genius, I think. No.
That's awesome. Well, cool. Yeah, go and check that out. Of course, if you want to go and read our Diablo cover story, go and get a digital magazine subscription. That's probably the easiest way to get it soon. If you are a print subscriber, that issue should be hitting your mailbox in the coming weeks. But yeah, thank you everybody for listening. If you enjoyed the show, go over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and leave us a rating. If I'm being real, I prefer Apple Podcasts. It is a big help on there because you can type words out, and it's always nice to read new reviews from listeners. But yeah, I think that'll be it. Follow the gentleman here. Follow Marcus at Marcus Stewart 7 on social media, and follow Kyle at Kyle M Hilliard. And you can follow me at It's Van Aken. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Oh, nobody's watching this. Thanks for listening. God, I'm tired. And we'll talk to you next week. Bye.